Hello, all you beautiful souls. Thank you for joining me for another edition of Operation Tango Romeo, the trauma recovery podcast for veterans, first responders, and their families. As you know, the show is an aggregate for resources. We bring on every resource that we can that helps the veteran and first responder community, and we talk about it so that you know what's out there for you. Today, we have on the show Dan, and Dan is the Chief Administrative Officer of Pets4Vets Canada. Pets4Vets Canada is a heartfelt initiative dedicated to transforming the lives of both veterans and sheltered animals. Founded on the belief that every animal deserves a loving home and every veteran deserves a loyal companion. This charity aims to bridge the gap between unwanted sheltered animals and veterans in need of emotional support. Hey, Dan.
Hello, how's it going, Mark?
Appreciate you doing this with me, man. It's much appreciated.
I appreciate it as well. It's a good forum to get my name out.
Well, make sure you share like the sugar bear once we're done and this comes out.
Oh, 100%. I got some SEO workings that'll make you go out into the world even more so than you already are.
Fantastic. That's what we like to hear. So let's start with what I think is a good starter question. I'm always curious about why the military. Why did you join in the first place?
Well, my immediate family were not military. I grew up in Canning, Nova Scotia, so I was close to Aldershot base. So when I turned 12, I became a cadet, an air cadet, 507 Kempville Lions Air Cadet Squadron.
Hoorah.
A little plug. And my grandparents were both in World War II. My grandfather was a dispatch rider. My grandmother was a Wren. She was on the Navy ships as a nurse medic kind of thing. So that it came in handy because every time I fell and broke something or cut something, my grandmother would sew me back up. But I would hear lots of stories from my grandparents and really looked up to them, wanted to emulate them. And so when I was 16, I joined the reserves, um, so I could, hang out with them. Also, it's kind of a sidebar as Oka was happening right at that time, and
Right.
my friends were all going to Oka, so I wanted to be with my friends, so I wanted to join as well. Um, so it was a interesting chat with my mother at the time. So she kiboshed the whole thing because of Oka. So I had to wait until I left school before I could join the reserves. And then basically, when I graduated my basic, the first thing I did was give my grandfather a picture of me in uniform. So I wanted to show that I carried on the tradition.
I'd love to see the recruitment demographics by province. I would guess that Newfoundland and the Maritimes, by far, on a per capita basis, donate more people to the military than anybody else.
I don't have the stats, but every time I go near a new base, I can reach my arm out and touch somebody from Nova Scotia or Newfoundland. So it's
Yeah,
definitely true. I would say that if you're not fishing, you're in the military.
yeah, pretty much. Well, it's the same in the States as far as economic regions. So you can sort of tell by the economy of a region how many people are going to get donated to, for lack of a better word, how many people are going to choose the military as a, and it's kind of contagious as well. I mean, they told two friends and told two friends. So if you're in a
Yeah.
community that where a lot of people end up joining the military, it just seems like the thing to do because that's what everybody else did, and that's what Dave did, and Sally did, and
Yeah.
you know, just
I
becomes part of the
absolutely.
culture.
I think as well, it helps to have a unit close by that has good tradition, has a good name for itself. In Nova Scotia, where I'm from, it's the West Nova Scotia Regiment, is the local reserve infantry unit, and they've always had a good name for themselves. I still have two brothers that are part of it, so um, it's a good organization, and when you have a good name out there, then kids want to join up.
So you started as a reserve medic, and
Yeah.
then how long did you do that before you became a reg force meathead?
I was a medic in 98 to 2001. And then after I graduated from college, I switched to military police.
Yep.
I figured I had the education, I might as well use it because I took that police foundations that Ontario had back in the day,
Okay.
and joined up as a Reg Force MP, and then got sent down to Borden for training.
So how long was the training to be an MP?
Well, you're 10 weeks at basic, and then 6 months at Borden. I think it's down to 4 months now. They took out the field and a few other things.
Right. Well, that's a fair bit. Infantry used to be 16 weeks. I don't know what it is now. So it's about the same now as it is for infantry training. You can pack a lot into that time.
Yeah, and well, I mean, we don't necessarily have to do the army stuff too much. I mean, Afghanistan, of course, there was lots of army stuff there, but they felt that that training could happen on workup and not. I didn't need to do a lot of map and compass as an MP in training. They use that more for learning the laws and stuff.
What were the MP when you went to Afghanistan? What was your role? Like, what does that look like for an MP in Afghanistan? What was your scope? What were you doing?
I worked with the police operations mentor and liaison team. So they had the omelet, which what the infantry was doing to teach the infantry the ANA for the Afghans, the Afghan National Army. What I did was I trained the Afghan National Police. So I would go out from my FOB, my forward operating base, and I would go out to the different locations and I would train the locals in handcuffing, arrest procedures. Wouldn't necessarily do paperwork because their paperwork is obviously different, but mostly the physical contact, distancing, and then as part of a Palmet team, we always had infantry with us. So, the infantry obviously are great to teach their side of it. So the AMP would also get a little touch of like infantry training, just so that they could convey around the country and feel safe.
How long was your tour? 6 months?
10. So I spent the
10.
first,
That is a long. So
yeah,
is
I
that
spent the
considered
first,
a double?
I could have had, I guess, two HLTAs, but they only gave me one. But
Hmm.
I spent the first 3 quarters of it outside the wire teaching, and then the last quarter of it I was back in Kandahar, like in CAF, the air base, and I was working the prison, like the detention center.
Okay. Yeah, that's too bad. To me, if you do 10 months, that's a double. Should have got the clasp.
I did get the bar. I did
Oh,
get the
okay.
bar across, so I did count because it goes by time in, right? So like time in theater. So I did get the bar for it. So it looks like I have two, but I tell people I was just there once. They just used me longer.
Yeah, that's a long time in a war zone. I think they came up with the 6 months because of PTSD. They eventually figured out, like in Vietnam era, it's like, that's too long. I don't think you should be in a war zone for more than 6 months because it's just too much. And I know when I did my tour, there was a lot of guys that were on their second and third,
Yeah.
and all the people that were on their third they did a double, so a year solid, 6 months off, and then they were on our tour. And only one person out of 12 that did it that way survived it mentally. The rest were severely damaged. It's just too much.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear the Americans when we left Wilson, forward operating base Wilson. The Americans moved in, and their tours are like 13 to 14 months long. They're considered basically postings, and it was unreal to hear. It's like you're going to be here for that long. That's an incredible time to be, well, one, away from home, but to be in a foreign place under constant fire, like to have that heightened alert, the hypervigilance all the time for that long is got to be hard on the body.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once you get conditioned to it, like for us on our tour, I found it was about the first 2, 3 weeks that you sort of get settled in and realize, okay, we're in a combat zone. Interesting. and then bombs go off all around you, and you don't even twitch. Like it doesn't even make you jump. You just like, oh, okay. I remember once, literally, a cup of coffee coming to my mouth, a landmine went off within 40 yards, and like there wasn't even a pause. I just continued with the sip, and it was a string of landmines, like boom, 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 boom. They were all tied together, and you just get to that point. But you think you're good, but actually you are on high alert. You're just used to being on high alert.
Yeah, yeah. That was a very hard part for me, was coming home and like not trying to be wide-eyed all the time. Like it's
Yeah.
been 14 years, and I'm still quite wide-eyed when I go places.
So how does that, tell me about that? Tell me about hypervigilance, what it looks like for you, if that's okay.
Oh yeah. Basically, if I go into a larger area, I find that, well, one, quite obviously, my eyes are like huge. They're like a couple of coffee cups, like
Hmm.
lids in my brain there, in my head. And um, I'll not pace, but it's more like a stationary pace. Like I'm almost like bouncing as if I have a child in my arms, trying to rock them to sleep. And then um, I'm just constantly scanning, like just always around the room. Usually try to put myself with a back to the wall. Um, sitting in restaurants with the back to the wall or back to a corner or something like that, just to so I can see the room. Um, when I'm like in a lineup, I'm looking at people's hands mostly, and eyes, trying to see what's going on in there, see what if they're going to be a threat, or if they're just simply standing in line for the ATM like I am. Um, it makes for a tiring day on the
Yeah.
best of days.
Yeah. Do you ever, I used to get hit right around 2 in the afternoon. All of a sudden, whoa. And I needed to lay down. Like there was no negotiating. Like I had to lay down.
Yeah, I definitely went through that a lot. Um, I've started to come out of that now, where I've got a bit more energy. I've started learning coping mechanisms like anybody else can, and just obviously with intense therapy, um, trying to calm down that hypervigilance. I've decided that, for myself, anyways, what I found is a good tool is I start talking to the people around me. So we went to Disney this past spring, and I did a few things to work myself up to that.
Yeah.
And we did the disability card and everything with them, which I recommend highly to anybody that wants to go down to Disney. If you're able to get the disability card, get it. Um,
So what does
but when I
that
was
do?
down there, it gets you basically to the front of the line. Like you're not in line, you're not waiting. A lot of them are timed things now. So like when you go on the app, you could say, okay, at 7:55, I want to go on the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. So you show up at 7:55, and they just walk you onto the ride.
So you just apply for that at through Disney, or is it something that you have ahead of time? Like where do you get
No,
it?
through Disney, they'll do like a
Okay.
little FaceTime interview. You got like I just sent them my summary of injuries from back, and they just said, "You poor soul, here you go."
Is there veterans discounts at Disney?
No, no.
Uh,
There's you can get packages through different things, but they've started to shy away from them. You used to be able to go to the PX close by and get discounted tickets, but they've sort of changed their philosophy on different things. But we got a decent discount through Costco, and went down and had a great time. But when I was in lineups on the occasion, I would just talk to the people around me and find out what their story was. Like where are they from? And I would tease with my wife and say, well, like, at least I know where they are. So if they try to mug me, I can go hunt them down. But she would laugh, but kind of nervously laugh. Um, but it made people more human around me, and it just made me feel a little bit more safer when I talked to them, and it kind of changed the chemistry inside my head, I guess. Like it made it more positive.
That's smart, and I get it. Once you talk to somebody and you have an introduction, then you're not doing the othering in your head,
Yeah,
and it instantly takes them off the threat list. So that's a
exactly.
good strategy. I like that.
Yeah, it worked. It worked for me. I would say try it if it works for you as well. I used to be a very outgoing person when I was younger, and I found that after being in the military, it just sort of got more sour and
Hmm.
more sheltered. Going to court cases, like on a civvy side, not even war side, but just going to court cases and watching people walk out after being charged for domestics and stuff like that, and just seeing how little is done, um, on the court side, it definitely gets a sour taste, and you start to get a little hardened, and the emotions start to go away. And so I'm trying to bring those emotions back. I'm trying to find them again, and use them in their proper way.
That's the thing about policing. You see what others don't. You know what others don't. You've seen the devil at work and the footprints of the devil. And uh, most people have maybe caught a glimpse, but it's something that you see on the regular, and you can't unsee it. You can't unknow what people are capable of doing, what evil people are capable of doing. You can't unknow that. And then you're walking around and you realize that everybody else is living in this bubble of happiness that they don't even know it because they don't
Yep.
know what they don't know. When I came back halfway through the tour, did the UN leave, and ended up at Horseshoe Bay ferry terminal on Vancouver Island, or on the Vancouver side. And that's when it hit me the hardest. Was look at all the glass in that tower. It's all intact. Look at all the people walking around without a care in the world. Oh my God, they have no idea. They have no idea that they have no idea. They don't know. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And in policing, it's something very similar. It's because when you're looking at a crowd, you know that in that crowd there's some real, truly evil people, and maybe they got a hell of a mask on because you've already met those people. You've met the people with the mask that they can fool most of the people most of the time,
Yeah.
and but they're actually a horrible piece of crap, and that, and that's the souring that you're talking about. Does that resonate?
Yeah, it's being in somebody's house at 2 in the morning, and being asked for help, and then going a week later to court, and watching the control and the guy leave with the wife, and you're knowing that you're going to be there in another, like, next weekend you're going to be right back at their house again.
Yeah, and
and
another
it's
black eye.
and it gets frustrating, and you start to just sort of tune it out, and just turn it off, and your emotions start to go away, and then you just sort of become, well, I always tell people that I just became a robot. It was just, plug me in for the day, and then unplug me when I'm done, and I'll just charge up for the next day.
Do you think the biggest part of the problem is the court system?
I think there's lots of things. I think if people had proper, medical care and proper health care, then they might see some of these things ahead of time. I think by the time I get to somebody's house, it's it's already the worst of what they've been going through. So if they can stop that before it gets to the worst, like being on a base, I'm dealing with military and the PMQs. Um, it goes back to mental health. These people are trying to reintegrate back into society, and they're trying to do it with their wife and children there. And they're if they spent a year in the sandbox like some of your coworkers did, you are different when you come back, and it's not the same for your family when you're back home. um, when I was at my lowest, just from my own experience, in 2019 my daughter was 3.5, and after one particular time that I would just sort of screamed, she
Yeah.
told me that I didn't have to be angry anymore. And like, she was 3.5 saying that to me. So
Yeah.
that was a bottom of the barrel moment. And that was, if my 3.5-year-old can come up with that and I can't even see it, um, that's where the failure is
Yeah.
that help. Um, the courts are overloaded, of course, but they're doing what they can. It's like everything else, is hiring. They need more people. They need um, things to go through smoothly. We need alternate systems for judicial, for just for justice. We just need different things to work.
As military police, did you receive any training in mental health and being able to identify and diagnose psychopaths and sociopaths or PTSD, anything like that?
Well, we were never diagnosing anything. Um, we would we got lots of training during our use of force segment in terms of mental health, how to talk to somebody. We did the assist course with the base, the applied suicide intervention training. We do so many scenarios of individuals in crisis and how we react to that. What's the best way? Making sure we have proper lists of the right people to contact in order to get these people the correct help. Um, so we do get a lot of hands-on training on site, like at the academy, and like the academy they have now, the new building is like state of the art. So it's phenomenal. I did a lot of my use of force in the cafeteria at Blackdown, at the cadet camp, because there was not enough space everywhere on the base in Borden. So we spent 7 weeks doing use of force out there, and you do what you can, and you get the training that you can, and you just hope that it's enough.
Is any of the training focused on yourselves, like on being able to identify post-traumatic stress disorder in yourself or in your coworkers?
I didn't get a lot during my trade training, my threes. That was well, back then we called it critical incident stress and critical incident stress debriefing. And the word of the time, or the sort of the philosophy at the time, was if you had multiple critical incidents and weren't debriefed properly, that can transform into PTSD. That was how I was
That's
taught
true.
it. Um, and so we try to do a lot of those debriefings, but at the time, like back in the early 2000s and 90s, they didn't quite know how to do that. So it was a lot of like taking them away from the spot. And like when I was in Ontario, when they would do, if I were involved in an incident with a civilian and you had to have the oversight people come in and investigate, they would take your gun belt away from you and they would take pictures of it so that they knew where things were on your belt. They they would take you away from the scene and basically isolate you, and then you would have to write your report. So you felt like you did something wrong even if you didn't do anything wrong. And so they had to, like, that was kind of how they dealt with it back when I was in my heyday working patrol. And I have a few friends that um, didn't survive that kind of um, belief. Some of them have PTSD, and some of them aren't here today.
Suicide?
Yes.
I always find it's better to say it than to allude to it,
Yeah.
just so people don't have to. What happens sometimes is that when you allude to something and you don't just say it, people don't want to hear it or they don't want to believe it often. So they'll put a different story in their head. That's why it's just better just to say it. Um, Tell me about Pets4Vets. What was the birth of that?
So in 2022, I was told that if I wanted to have a service dog, I could get a service dog. I had the paperwork and everything. Uh, at the time, I found it was very hard to go out and try to find a service dog. The VAC doesn't cover it. Different organizations back in 2022, in the height of COVID, volunteer donation money was drying up for different organizations. So it was going to be a big pain for me to get a dog, and I just like some of my friends and some of the beliefs. I always felt there was somebody worse off than me. So I felt that, okay, well then if they only have a few dogs, then it should go to people that are way worse than me, and I can just deal with it on my own.
So let's explain to the audience why it was that you felt that you would like to have a service dog that would be beneficial to you.
So I was very anxious, depressed, um, PTSD. So I was worried about being in crowds. I was worrying about going out of my
Mm-hmm.
house. I was worried about my moods. I couldn't control my like what mood was going to show up um,
Yeah.
in the day. So a service dog for me means that when I start to get elevated or go into my hypervigilance, Lucy would put her head on my lap or come over and nudge me to kind of bring me back into this room, like back into the present, I guess,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
best term. So what I decided was I was going to train my own service dog. So I went through a company in Alberta called Canadian Canine. Um, it's in Sherwood Park. It's a 2.5 hour drive, and I would go down there every week to do training with Lucy, and I got her certified as a service dog. Um, when I had her certified as a service dog, I found for myself that uh, it was almost an ordeal to have her now, because the things that she was going to help me do, like go leave the house and go into public, now attracted more attention because people wanted to come and pet my service dog. So then I was leaving her home if I was just going really quick to a store, and like I could run in, throw money at the cashier, and then run out, and I could handle it. I just kept leaving her back, and I'm like, this is not the proper use of a service dog. I'm not doing this right. Like what am I looking for here? And I needed the emotional support and the just having her around me when I'm having a bad moment. And so I thought, you know, I get that from not only my dog, but I get it from my cat. My cat, when I'm sitting here at the computer, which I'm surprised she's not here, she'll come and she'll just sit on my shoulder while I'm typing.
They just
And
know.
luckily, as age came on, I have a shelf now, just above my belly button, so the cat can sit on it quite comfortably. Um, and she'll just sit there for an hour while I'm typing away or trying to do stuff, and it's enough to regulate me and keep me in the present. And so my thought is like on Canada Day, I was thinking, like not everybody needs a service dog, but I think everybody could use a companion animal or a purpose, a reason, something to get out of bed. Even if it's just, I need more cat litter, I got to go to the store and buy cat litter. So that gets me out of the house, buy cat litter, come back, my cat's happy, and then I'm happy.
I get a whole lot more exercise and put on a lot more miles because I have a couple of dogs. If it wasn't
Exactly.
for them, I wouldn't get any miles on my shoes at all.
100%. And so not everybody that has um, a reason for a service dog necessarily needs a service dog. And a lot of people don't qualify for service dogs, but they do need that companionship. And so I figured what I thought of is that I could be that bridge. So if you're not quite at a point where you require a service dog, but you really do need some assistance, just giving yourself a purpose, getting out of bed, trying to enjoy the day, staying out of your head, then what Pets for Vets does is that we help that veteran, be it RCMP, military, uh, acquire a pet that will offer that companionship to hopefully improve their life and give them a bit more of a purpose. Um,
Does Pets for Vets also have? Do you also offer a certain amount of train the trainer, like how to train your dog for a new pet owner?
well, what I've been able to do is, so as I've been creating this, I've developed some partnerships with different rescues and other shelters. So I'm slowly getting my name out to the different humane societies, the SPCA's, and then the offshoot shelters. And so the plan is that the animal goes to the person. Um, First off, we pay for that adoption. So, being that I'm a veteran, I can understand that if there's a lot of barriers, I'm just going to say no and try to take the path of least resistance. So, what I am trying to do is be that intermediary where you come to me, you say, I need a pet, like I need a companion, I want to be able to get out of my house. And I go, great, where can we find a pet for you? And I talk to the individual, I find out if they're looking for a cat, dog, what's going to make them feel better, and then I help them find a shelter that has an animal that they're looking for. So it's we're not going to go through breeders, we're not doing any purebred animals. We want to deal with just strictly shelters and rescues.
Mm-hmm.
And so not every animal is going to be great for a service dog, but they could make a great companion. And so a lot of the shelters have on-site training. I've started a deal with uh, Pet Value, that they have coupon books at their stores for anybody that rescues an animal from a shelter. So if they go to the store, they can pick up this coupon book and it has discounts and things. So what I've done with them is, on top of that, um, if they have the services for training, then they can do it at that time as well, because it's all through that sort of that coupon book that I'm working out with Pet Value right now. But they already have it in place. I'm just going to kind of piggyback onto it. So it's great. And some of the companies, like I've been in talks with different canine training companies, and I don't want to use the term like washout, but like if they have a dog that is they've been training for a year and a half and then flunks out of school, um,
It still has
they
more training than anything else you're going to find.
absolutely, they've sit there and they'd said that they would put veterans in touch with me so that those dogs can go to them. So like I'm kind of like, if you can't do left, then go right, and I'm the right.
Do you know Mario Salazar?
I don't know that name, no.
He was a Patricia. He's a dog trainer now. Trains Malinois. He's in Edmonton.
Oh, nice. Whereabouts is he located?
Edmonton.
Edmonton. I know Carl Armstrong in Edmonton. He teaches canines out of there. He's a nurse. He used to be military. Um, I've talked to Courageous Companions. There's a canine place in Pembroke, Ontario, that I'm in talks with. He's actually the guy in Ontario. Actually, has been a bit of a mentor to me, just helping me with some of the nonprofit kind of stuff, and it's been really good. I've really appreciated his help.
What has been the impact in some of the people's lives that you've set up with an animal?
Uh, well, I've set up, so to date I've done one complete uh, start to finish setting up of a pet with a person. So I have a former RCR guy, or Mukto. I just placed a dog with him about 3 weeks ago, and some growing pains because that was dog number one, like
Mm-hmm.
animal number one. And so far everything has been super positive. Like anybody that I've talked to online thinks it's a great idea. Um, I've gotten a lot of endorsements from different people, but to me, having Jay and Hunter meet up, that was the individual and the dog. That was the best. That to me, that was like having a brand new restaurant and then tacking your first dollar bill up behind the bar. That like it felt wonderful.
Well, I would suggest potentially joining forces with the Veterans Association. They have locations in Calgary, Edmonton, Grand Prairie, Lethbridge, and Marie Blackburn is the founder of that, and they all also are doing a Pets for Vets. Is that you that they're doing that with, or is that something
Not
else?
that I know of. They're more. I'm more than happy to join up with anybody that wants to join up. I think that this is a great idea, so I want to get it out there.
Okay, well, I'll give you her number after. Marie Blackburn's already doing a similar program, so maybe there's some kind of synergy. Maybe you can work together and help more people.
I That sounds great. My goal is to have this go across Canada eventually. So,
Outstanding.
I'm in Cold Lake and I help somebody in Oromocto. The goal is to have somebody.
For our international audience, Oromocto is on the east coast of Canada in New Brunswick, and Cold Lake is in northern Alberta.
That's right.
Also, where Wolverine comes from.
That's right. They've actually voted a couple times to try to put a statue up here of Wolverine. I think it's more for tourism than anything else, but it has been brought up in city council.
I wonder if that's confirmed in the comics that it was Cold Lake, because I actually thought it was like High Level or something.
Um, I think the last one, or what was it? His individual movie, I think he said Cold Lake, and in Wolverine and Deadpool, I think they mention it again.
Well, either way, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a funny side story, but it's nice.
Well, that's what you do with Alberta towns. You want to get tourism. You have like the world's biggest potato or something, and
Yes, the pierogi.
everybody comes to see it. What's
I'm
that?
really close to the world's largest pierogi. It's in Glendon, Alberta.
Alberta is such a fun place. All right, Dan. Thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for sharing a little bit of your story today.
Oh, can I just I wanted to show the coin actually.
Please do.
Okay, so one way that I figure that people can help, I think you're familiar. Are you familiar with the remembrance coin?
No.
No? Okay, well
There's a lot of coins out there.
I know. There's a remembrance coin that's associated with wounded warriors. My friend Sean Kent started this coin, and so I wanted to emulate kind of something that he did. And so I made a Pets4Vets coin that can be engraved on the bottom with like a unit number. And so on the front, the beret can be tailored to the unit. So this one's an Army one. I've got SOFCOM, Air Force, Navy, MP, and soon to come will be Airborne, as well as a Stetson for the RCMP. And then on the back, it says Uniting Hearts, Healing Souls. I like the tails. The tails are a nice touch.
Very
cool.
Then,
basically, I'm selling these coins on the website, and all the proceeds are going to pay for the adoptions, the medical visit that we pay for, the initial one, microchipping, and then like a welcome package for the veteran and the pet, basically.
And what's the website?
Pets4Vets.ca. So pets and the number 4 vets.ca.
Perfect. Please stay on the line. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today for another edition of Operation Tango Romeo, the Trauma Recovery Podcast for veterans, first responders, and their families. Please help save a life by sharing, following, liking, subscribing, all the stuff that everybody asked you to do. But when you do it for this show, it helps other people find the show, which means you just help somebody and you might have saved a life. Thanks, everyone.